Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. I'm your host, Hannah MacDonald, and I'll be bookending the conversation with some of the most exciting voices from the bookish world. Welcome to our Christmas special, arguably our most exciting episode of the year, where we look back on all the bookish greatness from our year in reading and try the impossible task of narrowing those books down to a highlight reel of 5 favourites. Joining me for this difficult journey is the one, the only, Emma Hinds.
This is not as hard for me as it is for you because you have read like 8 times more books than I've read this year.
There's no way.
Yeah, that literally is true.
But you've also been writing lots.
That's true.
Writing lots of great things.
And some terrible things too.
Well, I was going to ask you, first of all, what your reading year's been like.
Right, so my reading year has not been as busy as your year because I have been writing. I've written like about 300,000 words of fanfic this year.
Oh my god.
Because I'm trying to wrap up my series. And I've written a book this year. So I've written my next YA novel, which has been about 120,000 words. And then I've written maybe like 50,000 words on top of that. So
And you've launched 2 books.
Yeah, no, nearly around 400,000 words written, 2 books launched.
Lots of events done,
So
including
many events
you interviewing
done.
others and you being interviewed.
Lots of interviews. I have read quite a lot this year.
Yeah, I think considering...
But I've read a lot of stuff, and some of it has been stuff that I wouldn't necessarily have chosen to read because it's been stuff that I've read for events.
Yeah.
That is maybe not like my go-to. So for the purpose of what we're doing today, there's quite a lot of stuff that I've read this year that was just like never going to be coming up to hit my top.
Yeah.
Whereas I think for you've read like a lot of things where you're like, that could have been in my top 5.
Yeah, I really, really struggled to narrow this down.
Yeah.
Like, really struggled. My main goal for this year, reading-wise, was to try and read more outside of the podcast. Yeah. And I'm not sure how successful I've been with that.
But if you have to read 1 book a week for the podcast...
Yeah, it's kind of impossible.
Like, how is that possible?
Yeah. So I've read... By the end of the year, I'll have read about 75 books.
Which is honestly mad. It's so many. I've read maybe half of that.
But that's still a lot.
It's not as... But do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
35 books. That is actually that's a lot for a busy person. You are a really fucking busy person, and you've still managed to read 75 books.
Yeah.
Do you realise how mad that is?
Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably only about 6 or 7 of those that have been books that haven't been for the podcast.
Well,
or haven't
I'm
been
not
for
surprised.
an event.
But when you work that out, that's like you've been reading at a rate, let's be honest, a rate of maybe 1.5 books a week.
Yeah.
Right? And so you've been doing that all year.
Yeah.
And then you've managed to sneak in another book for yourself maybe once every 2 months.
Yeah.
That's still a really good going rate.
Yeah, fair.
You have nothing to be ashamed of.
I'm ashamed.
The book police are not coming for you.
They are.
They are not. Are you kidding me?
My next question for you is, what are the books you've wanted to get to this year but haven't?
There's been so many.
Yeah. Feel you.
There's been so many, but there are a couple who have been like lingering on my back catalogue for a really long time. So there's a book called Neon Roses by Rachel Dawson.
Yes, I remember seeing this on your shelf somewhere.
Yeah, it's over there. I bought it like last year.
Yeah.
So I've managed to get through all of the year without really reading it, which is like a real...
Is it like one of those where you like stroke it as you walk past?
Yeah. I just haven't done it yet. The Artist by Lucy Steed.
Oh, so good.
Which is just like... Because you read that this year, didn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
So
I loved it.
That's been like lingering in my back catalogue. And yeah, there's so many. I could like give you a list of like 10, but those are the ones where I looked at my shelf and I was like, oh, I really need to like get on with it. Yeah, those are my big big hitters probably.
Your big ones.
I mean, there are other books that I've like seen this year that have come out this year where I've been like, oh, I really want to read that, and I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Rather than books that I possess, which I haven't got around to. So in terms of books that I don't possess, which I haven't got around to yet, which I really want to get around to, Flashlight by Susan Joy, which I haven't done. The South by Tash Orr, which I haven't done. Sarah Perry has a new book out about her experience of her father-in-law dying.
Oh, okay.
Which I really have been wanting to get to.
Oh, that's a shame that you haven't got to that.
I know. But yeah, that's me. So what about you? Confess.
Books I've wanted to get to this year but haven't. 2 books by Emily Slapper.
Great name.
One that you got me, which was Everyone I Know Is Dying.
Yeah.
Really wanted to get to that. And also I was sent her newest one, which I think is called It Could Never Happen Here. We'll link all of these in the show notes in case I forget the title or get something wrong. But they both sound so up my street and I haven't managed to get to them. Also really wanted to get to Fundamentally by Nasiba Yunus.
Yeah, it's right there.
Really, really wanted to read that. Haven't managed to get to that, which I'm devastated about. Also, Private Rights by Julia Anfield.
Oh my god!
Still haven't got to that.
Yeah.
Really want to get to that.
That was like one of my top reads of last year.
Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors.
I've not done that either.
Did we go to that event this year or was it last year?
Last year.
That
was a knowing. I'm like, what book was I promoting? I was promoting The Knowing. It was last year.
But yeah, I've not managed to get to those either. So, there's like a handful, and oh my god, what's the time travel one?
The Ministry of Time?
The Ministry of Time, Kellyanne Bradley. Yeah, wanted to get to that as well. So not managed to get to any of those. And they're just one of those that like are sat, like they've even made it into the bedroom. Like there's an attempt of shuffling them about and being like,
I have that's my situation. Like
right next to you while you're writing.
I'm like, if it's in that range, it might. If
there's a hopeful
reach, it might get read.
Hopefully at some point.
My
My last question before we dive into our top 5 is, what are you hoping to dive into over Christmas, if anything?
So I well, this isn't actually over Christmas. It's more like this week. I'm trying to do The Night Hag by Hester Musson, which is coming out next year.
Yes, I've heard about this.
February 2026. So I'm really excited about that. I like Hester Musson. And there are like some Christmas books that I'm thinking about, but I'm trying to keep it chill.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it chill. I won't be able to read a lot when I'm away next week, having family time in the South. That seems very unlikely. Also, I'm going to be trying to spend some time at the Wellcome Collection with some manuscripts.
Fun.
Yes, going to be looking at some diaries from the 19th century in the special little reading room.
Wow.
Yeah, like can't spill liquids on it. Got to use special stuff. Maybe I'll get some gloves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, love it. I won't be able to read it. And the handwriting is going to be so difficult to decipher.
Emma is looking incredibly excited about this.
I know. I was just like, oh, yes.
Geeking out.
So I will, but when we get back, I think what we're going to do is we're just kind of going to look at the books and just be like, just take the ones that appeal to you right now.
Yeah, that's nice.
Soul.
That's nice.
Or I'll go to a bookshop and spend money.
You are feral for doing that, to be fair.
I know, I'm terrible.
Do not put Emma in an indie bookshop. It's game over.
I know, but I love it so much.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also just picked up the other day. She says, fully aware that she has so many books on her shelf she doesn't need anymore. I picked this up from the lovely House of Books and Friends, signed.
Oh, amazing.
Ariana Harwitz's Die My Love, translated by Sarah Moses and Carolina Orloff.
Which has recently been adapted into a film starring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson.
Exactly, and I thought I might want to see the film, so I'm going to read the book.
And I want to read that as well.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to dive into over Christmas on the calculation of volume 1, which I was gifted by Faber and haven't got to yet, so I'm about to get in trouble with Faber. I really
want to get into that,
Yeah, maybe I could throw that over to you.
Well,
have you got it?
No, I hear rumours from certain parties that someone might be gifting it to me for Christmas. I've heard that from some family. So
muy interesante. Very exciting. And also Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I'm going to be trying to read because I want to read it before we watch it.
It's a lovely book.
Yes, I'm excited.
I might reread it actually for the funds. That would be a nice thing to do next week.
Yeah,
because I've read it already, so it's not like
it's not like you're missing out if you
chill,
if you have to leave it.
Yeah,
and maybe even Wuthering Heights.
Okay,
I've never read Wuthering
you
Heights.
have to read Wuthering Heights
before I watch the film.
You
I
have
know,
to.
and that's my
Otherwise,
plan.
I will literally beat you with a copy. I will beat you.
I will read it before I watch it.
Yeah.
So
It will
that's
be
my
like
goal.
a reenactment of a 19th century beating too. I will scold you.
I know you will. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do. Let's get into our top 5.
Top 5.
So we're going to do this in no particular order, but I am going to hold a gun to Emma's head at the end and ask what
So
you're going to
brutal.
put as your top read of the year.
Okay, fine.
Which is very difficult. I have found this unbelievably hard.
I set myself some parameters to make it easier.
Okay, go on. What were they?
So, obviously, it has to have been read this year. That's the first one. That helps. I decided that I was only going to put things in the top 5 that have been published this year.
Oh, okay, smart.
Yeah. So, to give myself some...
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
You're smart for that. I was just like having a complete meltdown, sat on my bed rereading openings and endings and looking through my notes that I'd made for like ones that were for the podcast and being like, oh my god, like, but I love this one, but did I love it more than this one? It was
You traumatized yourself.
I really did.
Yeah. So those my boundaries were it has to be published this year. And then I guess we should talk about like what makes something a top read for each of us. So,
Yes.
do you want to go first? What makes your top read a top read?
So I was thinking about what are the books, because I do read so much and my memory is famously shocking. I was like, what are the books that have stayed with me? They have to have stayed with me. I have to still think about elements, be able to think about elements of that book and not be fighting for my life trying to remember what possibly happened, which doesn't mean a book is bad. It's just my brain is not quite with it, so it has to have like impacted me in a way that I'm like, I still think about those characters or I still think about specific moments in those books. It also, I mean, there's different reasons that I will go through for each book of why I specifically chose them, but it was a very difficult task. And I think for some, like for one of these, it's that, you know, I was particularly surprised by it, you know, if it's not a genre that I would usually go for. So there's like a number of things. Like one of them is like, I don't really cry at books, but that book moved me to tears, and like that's a really rare thing. One of them is like, because they were all going to end up being really sad books or like books that had moved me in a particular way, there was one that's in there that like is probably the book that made me laugh the most this year. So like it's a very chaotic way of thinking, but that's what I went with.
I don't think so. I think it's kind of what moved you.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a very like emotionally
something
led
that gave you emotional
choice.
response.
What was how did you come to your decisions?
Mine is the ones where there's something in them that I take forward and I puzzle over and I keep returning to mentally in my mind as a reference, usually for my own writing or my own work.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's something that I've spoken to other writers about as well, is that feeling of like going to books hoping to learn something that you can take forward craft wise. And I think all of these, even when I didn't expect it, there was something in them that I kept returning to throughout the year. Yeah. In terms of the craft of them that drew me back. And some of them emotionally resonated more than others, and some of them I liked more than others, weirdly. But like they all have something in them that like when I'm working on my next book, I am kind of carrying something forward from these books into that. Yeah. So that's my criteria.
So I'm just going to say, before we go into the top 5, that I am doing a specific special shout out to Emma's books.
But it would be weird to talk about. You would have to have like 2 spots open for my books. That wouldn't be fun.
I'd probably also be like breaking a sweat talking about your books in front of you. Because,
that's not fair. Nobody needs to do that.
But of course, I've always said that you're one of my favourite writers, and I knew this before I even read a book of yours. It was from your days as a playwright, which I hope on over. I hope you'll return to that one day.
Yeah, I would like to.
But both books of yours that I've read this year is The Quick and the Dead and Witch Law.
Yeah, which we just did a little podcasty on.
We have done Witch Law. The Witch Law episode will come out before this episode, so that is nice. So if you've not already listened to that, give this a pause and go and listen to that. Do get yourselves copies of The Quick and the Dead and Witch Law. I think they're both brilliant in very different ways. I mean, The Quick and the Dead is it Tudor? Yeah. Tudor.
Yeah, it's
alchemy.
It's Tudor, it's dual narrative, it's third person, it's historical, and then
usual
Witch Law,
queer chaos.
Yeah, Witch Law is
Witch Law is gays gallivanting around Manchester with a big sprinkle of magic in there.
But it couldn't be more different. It's contemporary, it's first person.
Yes.
It's only one narrator. It's yeah, the only thing they have in common is they're both a bit magical and a bit gay.
Love.
Or very magical, very gay.
And I love them both in very different ways. I think if I was held at gunpoint, I'd say Witch Story is my fave out of the two, but I don't know if that's because of... I mean, I love contemporary fiction anyway, you know this. Yeah. So it could be that I've got a bias there, but also the Manchester setting and how many sort of... I said touch points, I think, in our podcast the other day. Is it touchstone? Touch point?
Like, you can say either.
How many places that like we know and have been to.
Yeah. That we've hung out specifically.
Yeah, that just made it like a really fun read. Because I was like, wait, we've been there. Wait, that's our favourite coffee shop. Like,
we do stuff there. Yeah. No.
So I just thought like that was such a nice like touch. And even down to like the fact that I knew what the lift was going into like the college.
Yes, that was really funny. You're the only person who's picked up on that, by the way. Which is
funny because I was literally in there on Saturday in the exact building.
Well,
and I forgot to send you a picture of the staircase.
Oh, that's so funny.
Anyway, that special shout out aside, go buy Emma's books. Let's get into our top 5.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick us off?
Okay, sure. My first top 5 is Old Soul by Susan Barker, who is a pal of mine. Shall I read the bio?
Yes, we love Susan.
When two grieving strangers meet by chance in Osaka airport, they uncover a disturbing connection. Jake's best friend and Mariko's twin brother each died 6,000 miles apart in brutal and unfathomable circumstances. Each encountered a mysterious, mesmerizing woman in the days before their deaths, a woman who came looking for Mariko and then disappeared. And it's...
I genuinely found this book so scary.
It's so great, though. I think I've thought about it so much this year. I read it at the start of the year, and when you were like, we're going to do our roundup, I was like, Old Soul, it has to be on there. Like, it's
really?
Just like, it's so...
You knew?
I thought about it so much. She's so clever. She has all of these different kind of testimonies with... So there's 7 different accounts.
It's so cleverly
this
written.
Uncanny woman. And all 7 are so different and so wild. Some of them are really like factual, some of them refer to like different things at different times, and then it crosses like oceans, it crosses like hundreds of years. It's impeccable. I'm just gonna read like a little bit from so this is from Testimony 3, which is Bedwyr, and he has a daughter called Cerridwen, and they live in Wales, and Cerridwen is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And a strange woman comes into their community called Liesel. She appeared in church one day. She's meant to be from East Germany, and she comes to stay with them. And this is it, a bit I'm going to read. The next morning, he woke earlier than usual, around 4 or 5, with a nameless dread. He went straight to Cerridwen's room and was thrown into a panic by her empty bed. Cerridwen couldn't move around without her father's assistance. Her paralysis was such that she couldn't even crawl. Liesel, he thought, Liesel has taken her. He burst into the spare room. The narrow guest bed was empty too, the quilted bedspread thrown back. He was about to rush downstairs when some noise outside sent him to the window. He yanked aside the curtain and was astounded to see in the weak light Cerridwen and Liesel at the back of the garden under the crabapple tree. Astounded, because his daughter was standing in front of her wheelchair as Liesel held up a camera, taking her photograph. Bedwyr stared. The last time he'd seen Cerridwen on her feet by herself was before the accident 8 years earlier, yet there she was, standing 5 feet 2. She looked weightless, as though levitating, and more beautiful than Bedwyr had ever known her to be. Long pale hair shimmering down her back, cotton nightgown hanging loosely over the pubescent swell of her breasts and hips to graze her ankles. Even from the upstairs window, Bedwyr could discern a dangerous sensuality about her, her lips parted as though in some lustful state. It snapped Bedwyr out of his trance. He hurtled down the stairs, 2 at a time, and out into the garden, to the innocuous sight of Liesel pushing Cerridwen in her wheelchair across the grass back towards the door. I love it.
So unnerving.
Yeah, it's such a... For some reason, the Wales stuff really like formed in my mind. I can see it all really visually. And there are other moments in this book which are more violent and more disgusting. Like there's real body horror moments that come later on. It is a horror book, but the unsettling encounters in Wales with the levitation and the trees and the strangeness, like it really stayed with me for a really long time. And it's just haunting. It's a haunting book. And I I have kind of like gone back to it a couple of times just to kind of study it.
She's so great at writing tension and
Yeah.
like building that
Yeah.
that pace and that like
Yeah, and I read it all in one gasp. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't put it down. It was
Yeah.
so tense. So yeah, it's my favorite horror of the year. Yeah. Okay, tell me.
My first one that I'm gonna mention.
We've got our
Is it?
stacks of books here.
We
'cause
have our
we're not
stacks.
crazy people.
First one I'm going to talk about is Heart the Lover by Lily King.
I just started reading it, Lily King.
Writers and Lovers.
Lovers, yeah.
Love that.
I don't know. I'm not feeling it as much. Maybe I'd like this one more.
Interesting.
Is it about a writer?
This is about a writer, but it's a prequel and sequel to Writers and Lovers.
So I really have to finish Writers and
which
Lovers.
which I didn't realise until after the fact. And loads of people have been speaking about this book, like it's on a lot of favourites of the year list. It's so beautifully written. This was published in October this year, so
Yes.
it was quite a late entry to my favourites. But it is the book that I was speaking about before where like it made me cry. And very few things make me cry. So this is a sort of love triangle between two friends, Sam and Yash, and the narrator, who for the majority of the book is called Jordan. And they meet because Jordan is a student and she's a student, and Sam and Yash are these star students on her course in the year above. And she ends up having relationships with both of them at different times, and we sort of move through her life from when she's with them and involved with them as a student, but then we also jump forward in time to when she's married and has children. And we sort of see obviously how much she kind of grows and changes. And we see her relationships with these individual boys that become men, and there's such a beautiful exploration of love and of yearning and the sort of betrayals that happen and what her life is like now as a mother and as a writer, and how like when she's a student and she really wants to become a writer, like what that means to her, and then what it's actually like how that changes when she actually is a writer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like not everything is as exciting as you hope it will be.
Yes.
Which you will know.
Do you think you need to have read Writers and Lovers to read Heart the Lover?
No. I think it can be a standalone for sure.
Because I'm wondering if maybe I try Heart the Lover and I like it better, then it might help me get
I think you
back
should
into
read this.
Writers and Lovers.
Yeah, I think I would really like you to read this. I just think it's such a gut punch of a book, and I just think it's so magic how like she's able to say so much in so few words. Like it really feels like her sentences are really stripped back, but like you get more than enough. And I've got a quote that I want to read. I love that we both brought quotes.
Oh yeah.
So this is, she has started a relationship with Yash and has gone off to work as an au pair for a little bit in France, and she's talking about being away from him and working as an au pair. I found some cheap French classes and make a few friends in them. I bring the kids, Luke and Delphine, to their lessons and play dates all over the city. I try to study grammar. I try to read. In my tiny room, I start to write a couple of short stories but don't finish them. Most of my writing comes out in the form of letters to Yash, in which I try to stay upbeat and anecdotal and not overwhelm him with my longing for him, and the journal I keep for the overspill of that emotion. I am so in love with him, it is hard to take a full breath. I write in the journal. His absence feels like losing a lung. My life is pending, suspended. It swings from letter to letter. When one arrives, I soar for a week straight. Over the next week, I come down slowly. Once back on the ground, I fear the worst. He's met someone who makes him feel different, new, even more alive. She's Brazilian, she's a dancer, she's a Brazilian dancer, and I will never hear from him again. Then a fresh letter arrives, and up I go again. His first packet from Knoxville in June is exuberant. He's graduated with highest honours, he sets up a table and chair in his father's barn, and he's made a vow to start a novel, 5 pages a day. This makes me so happy, I don't force myself to wait a few days, I write back immediately. I have so much I want to say. I tell him that everything is bubbling up fast and jamming together. And still, I write, there is this sense that I could express it all in just one non-existent word, and you would understand exactly what I mean.
You're in love.
I loved it so much
loved it
because
so
I think it's just such a perfect like expression of what it feels like to fall in love and how much of a roller coaster of emotions it is. And that whole like, I love him so much, it's hard to take a full breath. Oh my god. And there's also a really weird thing that when I was talking to Lily on the podcast, there's a really weird moment in the book where there's a scene where somebody is sat with someone that is dying and they're holding their hand and the hand changes and feels like the hand of a parent that they've lost. And it gives them that comfort in that moment. And it's really, really strange because my nana always talks about this moment where she was sat with her dad when he was dying. Was it her dad or her mum? I can't remember which of them died first. That's awful. But the hand changed and it went from being, I think it was her, it changed from like her mum's hand to her dad's hand.
Yeah.
And it was such a like a specific experience that I was like, how mad that like that's also happened to Lily King. Because Lily King said no, that was an experience that actually happened to her. And it's in this book and it was such a beautiful moment and I was like, oh, just to capture that. But this is only like 200 pages and I felt so many emotions in that time. And I just loved it so much. So I really want you to read this. Next up.
Okay, I'm going to do this one for a tonal shift. The Pretender by Joe Hopkins.
Yes.
Which you loaned me and I have not given them back.
You.
Because I loved it. I'll just give a little out. The description is Wolf Hall meets Demon Copperhead in the story of a young man tossed into the chaos of history, which is very true. This is about Edward Plantagenet, the 17th Earl of Warwick, who was very historically called the Pretender. Inspired by the real life pretender Lambert Simnel, the Pretender is a sharply ambitious, brilliantly imagined, and hugely entertaining story of intrigue, deceit, and ambition and revenge. Yeah. Basically sums it up. It's a period of history that I love to explore, but I just thought it was so funny. I had so much fun reading this. It made me so happy, and I feel like it just got me from the first opening, which is just perfect. Was this the first thing he wrote of his own? I am John Colin. Today, in the year 1483, I will defeat the goat. In the name of honour and glory to God highest, and for reason that it knocked me in the mud again today, and has trodden churlishly over my back, has despoiled an insult that cannot be borne. Like, it's just I think it's perfect opening. It looks beautiful on the page as well, because it's got that classic language thing. And it made me laugh so much. And I understand that things that I find funny, other people don't necessarily find as funny. But it made me really happy. It made me laugh. I think it has a really sweet ending as well. And it is a lovely chunk of a book. It is, let's count, like 450 pages. I think there's a lovely feeling when you're in a book and it's really long, but you're like, I don't care. This can be 1,000 pages long and I'll still be happy. And that's sort of how I felt about being in this world and the world that she created. I think she did a beautiful job of reimagining this particular part of the Tudor conflict.
I knew as soon as I saw the Wolf Hall comp.
Yeah, you were like,
I was like, this is for Emma.
Yeah. Bloomsbury do such pretty proofs. I'm looking at the Bloomsbury proof right now and I just think it's so stylish. But yeah, me and my dad, we both love Hilary Mantel, and I sent him a copy of this book for his birthday because I thought he would like it. And I was like, how did you like it? Did you get on with it? He was like, no, I thought it was a bit sentimental. I was like, great.
Isn't it so funny how different people respond to different...
Yeah, and I know why. It's because it has like a love narrative in it. So he's like, oh, sentimental garbage. But yeah, it made me really happy. And I've thought about it a lot. I've thought about the way that she manages history. And for somebody who writes historical fiction, it's so inspiring when you see a writer creating the world that feels so thoroughly lived in and relevant in the way that their characters speak and what their characters care about. And it just feels like it could be today, even though it's not. But it doesn't lose any of its historicity, because that's another thing. If historical fiction writers write too much like it's today, then that just makes me want to kill them. So it's a perfectly balanced book, and I had a lot of fun with it.
I'm so glad.
So that was my fun read.
And this has a new home with you.
Yeah, so this is my best historical fiction of the year.
Love that.
Yeah.
Because you spoke about it has the best opening. I'm next going to talk about Finding Grace by Loretta Rothschild, which I've raved about this book so much this year, and specifically the opening chapter. That was like, it would be stupid of me not to put this on my top reads. And when I saw...
Of course. We're just gonna interrupt to declare that of course this is one of Hannah's books of the year. It has a bright front cover and it has a close-up picture on the front cover of a woman's face. And she looks, I would say, quite anguished.
I feel attacked.
That's Hannah's favourite type of book.
It is
a contemporary. They're always contemporary, aren't they?
Always.
They're never historical fiction.
Never.
Where they have a nice...
Excuse you, there is actually 2 historical books on my...
I know, but the historical
publisher.
books never have the anguished woman's
Never.
face.
They would never.
It's always a photograph or a very highly stylized
This is true.
piece of art.
This had a quote on it from an endorsement from Jodie Pickle, who was one of my favourite writers as a
late
Jodie.
teen,
who said it's one of the best books that she's read this year. So this book came out in June this year, and I'm going to read the blurb because I'm really scared about spoiling anything to do with this. So the blurb is: Honna's life is nearly perfect. She adores her bright and beautiful daughter Chloe and her charming, handsome husband Tom, even if he works 100 hours a week. Yet Honna's longing for another baby threatens to eclipse all that is wonderful until a shocking event changes everything. Years later, Tom makes a decision that ripples through their family's life in ways he could never have predicted. As the consequences of his choice continue to unfold, 2 women's paths become irrevocably entwined. Blending a page-turning moral dilemma with a sweeping love story, Finding Grace explores the price of secrets and asks whether it's ever too late to tell the truth. So that's how they've managed to write that blurb without giving anything away is really...
Is it full of spoilers?
It's so hard to talk about this book without giving a spoiler.
Okay, what are you going to do?
The opening chapter is like, you think the book is going in one direction, and then it literally like swerves the car, flips over, and you're off somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell just happened? Like, it really threw me. Like, I finished the first chapter, and then Billy came to bed, and I was like, I need you to read this. And I explained the cat is kicking off. It's fine. She has lots of feelings.
She has so many feelings. She's been so terrible recently. Anyway, come, carry on.
So I explained, like, I gave a quick, brief explanation of what happened in the chapter so far, and then got Billy to read the final few pages of the chapter, and he was like, what the fuck just happened? And I also got 2 girls that I work with to do the same thing the next morning because I was so blown away by it. So the POV of this is also such a unique one, but I think it's pulled off brilliantly. But again, I can't even go into detail about that because that's a risk. But it is a novel about grief, and it's a novel about relationships and about finding love, and it's also about betrayal and secrets, and it's about fertility and parenthood, and I think all of those things are handled really well with a lot of care. I love the way that she writes about characters, and I think we learn so much about them with how detailed she makes them. Like, there's a detail in this that always sticks out to me, which is about how Honor leaves half-empty coffee cups scattered around the house. And I just thought it was a really nice detail.
It's a bit brutal. Who else is feeling called out by that?
Yeah, feeling called out by that. But it felt like every word mattered in this.
Yeah.
And I obviously read so many debut novels for the podcast, and I do think this was my favourite debut of the year.
Wow, okay.
But the first line of the book is, the last time we were at the Ritz in Paris, I had my 5th miscarriage at breakfast.
Oh, that's a great opening line. That's a stunning opening line. I love that.
Isn't it?
That's great. That's, like, there are some people who just have killer opening lines, but
and that is
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
I really want you to read this. So yeah, excellent.
Pressure.
Really excellent book. What's next for you?
Okay, well, we're talking about debuts. This is a debut.
Great.
And He Shall Appear by Kate Vanderburg. I've read a lot of debuts this year as well, and I was looking at my list of debuts, and it was hard to come up with it. I have got some honourable mentions in the debuts, but
Yes.
the reason that this one is on my top is because I've thought about it probably the most.
Yes.
Kate, so I'll give you a little bit of an explanation from the back. When an unnamed outsider falls under the spell of Bryn Cavendish, a magnetic party boy and skilled occultist, it seems nothing could ever go wrong. But as Bryn's allure intensifies, the lines between myth and reality begin to blur. The secret history meets Saltburn in this decadent tale of obsessive friendship. I think that's a bit unfair. I haven't read The Secret History, but I have watched Saltburn and I was unimpressed. So I feel like that's unfair.
Have you not read The Secret History?
No, and I'm not going to now.
Do you know what?
You're about to start reading the Secret
No,
History
I've
of-
started it.
Yeah. The thing is, like, if you write fantasy fiction in this day and age, somebody always asks you, have you read The Secret History?
Okay, fair.
Because some people believe that literally every fantasy that came after Donna Tartt must be based on The Secret History somehow.
Okay.
Or must be influenced on The Secret History. And nothing I write is influenced by The Secret History because I haven't read it. So I'm not going to read it. So then I can avoid that question. I think...
I'm loving all the notes in this.
Well, I did an event with her.
You did.
So it came out in January. And I think my closest... I think the closest comp to this book is actually Engelby by Sebastian Faulks, but this is like a mystical Engelby by Sebastian Faulks. And the reason I have thought about this one so much is because she does a beautiful job of managing an unreliable narrator, which I think is something that I'm looking into in my own work right now. So I've thought a lot about it, and I've thought about a lot about her book, how it is in discourse with other unreliable narrator stories like The Talented Mr. Ripley and things like that. So it's doing all of these things. It's also very gothic, which obviously I love. There's like ghosts, the occult and all of that, but it's also got an incredible tenderness to it. And I'm just going to read a little bit from the end. So he's talking about, he's a musician. So he's a musician. He went to university for music, and he's listening to a song, and he says, "But terrible as this moment of loss may be, I press a button to begin the song again for the 10th, 20th time, I don't know. Because I too am forever on that hill, memories whipping about me like leaves ripped from ancient trees, the sky like a face I almost recognize, never getting any closer to the summit, however hard I climb, the rain beating me back, beating on my window. As I look at that bone shard of the past, it's not healthy, they say, to dwell. But even if I wanted to leave it behind, I couldn't. You know why? Because he always comes back. I pour another drink, begin the song again. The feeling in this music, it isn't nostalgia, because nostalgia is a simple longing for the past. Even Swardi, I can't say that word. The word I learned from Warlock, grief for something lost, doesn't affect what I hear in these transcendent sounds. But there is a word from Wales, born of the exquisite wild landscapes Warlock adoreth, Hireth, a whisper of a word to seal a hex. There's no direct English equivalent, but people describe it as the feeling of longing to be where your spirit lives. It can describe anything you yearn for, a person, a place, an era, even places you've never been and times you've never experienced. And it's just, it has, you talked about like books that are about yearning and longing. This is such a yearning book.
Love.
If you want like a kind of a book that's about admiration for a person that borders on the homoerotic, this is where you want to be. And so I don't know if it's my favorite like debut of the year, but it's just the one I've thought about the most.
I love that.
Yeah, I just keep coming back to her how she managed to do this.
And you read that in January.
And I read that in January.
So that's like, I always think that's a really good sign if it stayed with you until the end of the year.
Yeah. And it's maybe, if Old Soul is my favourite gothic, it's my favourite... Old Soul is my favourite horror, this is my favourite gothic.
Love that.
Keeping the boundaries clear.
Keeping the boundaries clear.
Okay, this looks like a historical fiction.
This is a balance.
Oh, we love it.
Of historical and contemporary fiction.
Okay.
This is such an accomplishment of a novel. This is There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak.
We love her.
Adore her so much, and God, I felt like such a fangirl when she came on the podcast. I was just beside myself with delight. So this was published in August 2024, I believe, but I interviewed her in April, I think it was, for the paperback publication. Firstly, I admire her so much because she writes so beautifully in a language that isn't her native tongue. Yeah. So I think like that's just magical. But with this, it's multiple POV, which I mentioned Jodie Picoult before. That's one of the reasons why I used to love Jodie Picoult's writing when I was younger, is because she wrote multiple POV so well. Yeah. But this is multiple POV, but it also jumps across various timelines and locations. So this is a story of how all of the characters in this book are connected by a single drop of water, which, I don't know, in the wrong hands.
Yeah, in the wrong hands, that's some wanky bullshit, isn't it? Yeah.
But this is, like, it's written so well, and this was another one that really moved me. I just want to say, well, she's genuinely one of the greatest writers of our time. Hands down. And she really, really cares about literature Like, she's so passionate about it. She's just been announced as, is it like the Royal Society of Literature? Is like, there's something of that.
Love that.
Wait, let me see, because I don't want to say this wrong and get absolutely cancelled on the podcast. Named new president of the Royal Society of Literature, so I wasn't wrong. Also, 10 Minutes 38 Seconds in a Strange World is such a banger of a book, but that's a story for another day. So we go from the ruins of Nineveh, an ancient city of Mesopotamia.
Nineveh and Mesopotamia.
Yes, that. Where lies fragments of a long-forgotten poem, the Epic of Gilgamesh. We move from there to Victorian London, where a child, Arthur, is born at the edge of the filthy river that is River Thames, and his only chance at escaping poverty is his incredible memory, which is like next level incredible. His gift allows him to become an apprentice at a printing press, and he's then sent on this epic journey because of one book. We then go to Turkey in 2014, where we meet Narin, a Yazidi girl living by the river Tigris. Her and her grandmother have to escape their war-torn lands, and it's a really harrowing journey for them both, and there's like ISIS involved. It's like really, like it doesn't shy away from the kind of brutality that they experience, and it's like, it is really haunting, but again, I think Liv handles it with such thought and care. We also see London in 2018, where we meet Zalika, who is a hydrologist living on a houseboat in the Thames, who's recently heartbroken, having left her marriage, when she gets the opportunity to return to her homeland. And I just think it's so incredible the way that she writes about the characters' sort of inner lives, and then the sort of world that's happening around them, and the sort of political climate of their situation, the sort of current and social events that are happening. I just think she's such a powerhouse of a writer, and I never expected to feel so connected to a Victorian child. There's a quote that I've got that I read out on the podcast with Elif Shafak, but I'm going to read it again. So this is Arthur, and he is going into the British Museum, and he says, "Sir, I'm looking for the Lamassus from Nineveh. Are they still here?" "Where else would they be, lad?" says the man. "Did you expect the winged creatures to have flown away?" Arthur stutters. He does not belong in August institutions, and he worries that people can sense it. It occurs to him in that moment that poverty has its own scent, an odour that emanates from his pores, easily detected. It is an awful, debilitating thought. Drawing in a sharp breath, he turns around and hurries in the direction he assumes to be the exit. The man calls after him, perhaps in sympathy, but the boy does not wait. The divisions that make up class are, in truth, the borders on a map. When you are born into wealth and privilege, you inherit a plan that outlines the paths ahead, indicating the shortcuts and byways available to reach your destination, informing you of the lush valleys where you may rest and the tricky terrain to avoid. If you enter the world without such a map, you are bereft of proper guidance. You lose your way more easily, trying to pass through what you thought were orchards and gardens, only to discover they are marshland and peat bogs. And I just was like that is exactly how it feels.
You're like, I get it.
I literally can't explain how much that experience resonates with me, of like walking into somewhere and immediately feeling the class divide, and like immediately feeling like you're somewhere you don't belong, and feeling shut out. And yeah, I never expected to have a Victorian child's experience resonate with me, but it could again feel like very chaotic, having so many different timelines and locations and characters in the wrong hands, but it doesn't feel like that with this book. And it's a really long book. I think it's like 600 pages or something.
Yeah, it's a chunk.
And it didn't, I could have read more from her. I just think she's an incredible writer, and
love it.
Also, how beautiful is that cover?
It's beautiful.
And it also, as well, made me appreciate nature a lot more, which I don't often do. I'm very much a hermit, who is so...
Specifically in the city hermit, rather than like a hermit who lives in the woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I say hermit as in the phrase that, like, well, a word is like somebody that stays inside, but I don't know if I've used the wrong term there. But I do, like, I'm very much, yeah, I've maybe used the wrong term, but, like, I very much hide away, because I think I have such a busy life, and recluse. I'm out and about constantly, but, like, head down, onto the next thing. It's, like, never looking around and appreciating. Yeah.
But also, why should we not like to be at home? We pay enough to be here, don't we?
We do, exactly. But it really made me appreciate nature and think a lot about what connects us all.
You know, the book that did that for me, I don't think it was this year. When did Intermezzo come out? Last year?
Last year,
yeah. There was a lot of nature writing in Intermezzo. Okay, next up. Next up for me.
Yeah.
Okay, since we are on writers.
Also, I love that you just shouted out Sally Rooney.
Yeah. Writers who we believe are like the best writers of our time.
Yes.
Arundhati Roy, Mother Mary Comes to Me, which is my non-fiction of the year, which was a surprise.
And also, I listened to the New York Times did the obviously top 100 most notable books of the year, didn't they? But in their podcast, they did their top 10 books of the year, and they did 5 fiction, 5 non-fiction, and this was one of their 5 non-fiction.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Arundhati Roy is an incredible writer. She could write a postcard and I would read it. But this is a beautiful and a moving account of her life and of her mother's life, and is incredibly powerful. And we've talked about this. I've talked about this book on the podcast already, so I won't go into it. I will just read the quotes that I wrote in my notebook, which means they are quotes that I'm trying to take into my life, basically. She said, "I learned that most of us are a living, breathing soup of memory and imagination, and that we may not be the best arbiters of which is which." And I think that's just such a profound comment on how we live our lives in terms of how we relate to our past, because a lot of what she's talking about is how do we relate to our own past, and how do we understand ourselves, and how do we map our own trauma. And some of it is memory and some of it's imagination, and sometimes we don't see the truth of who we are, and sometimes the further away from we get from it, the less truthful it becomes. I also really liked this quote, which was, "My commitment was to writing, to being a writer, not a leader or an activist. To do that, I could not be weighed down by the burden of a following or fulfilling people's expectations. I had the right to be unpopular."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and I think that's when I read it at the time, I was like, it felt very, it sort of settled on me as I need to release myself as a novelist from the expectation of what being a novelist means in this century.
Yeah.
I am not a good social media person.
You are, but
No,
I get it. I get it.
It the amount of mental energy it takes to do the smallest thing.
So fair, yeah.
And so much of online culture is essentially about popularity. It's about being popular, being liked. And I'm not always a likable person. And I have that right.
You do have that right.
I have the right to be unlikable and to be habits that people find unsociable or undesirable.
Yeah.
Like the fact that, I don't really like to hang out with lots of people. And I'm quite choosy about who I want to spend time and energy on.
Yeah.
And when I'm done, I'm kind of done.
You're done. This is one of my favourite things about going out with you, by the way, is that you will just be like, okay, I'm done out. I'm like, great. We're done. Perfect.
Done.
Let's go home.
But I just appreciate, she obviously is not talking about social media. She's talking about a huge political following.
Yeah.
That she has become a political force in her country. But I think the lessons from the extremists of these models of popularity work on every level.
Yeah.
Me with nobody's following me doing anything, which is great. That's generally probably for the best, because who knows where I'm going. But yeah, I find it incredibly meaningful, and I think it's also just so much about a relationship with a mother, and we can all relate to that.
Yeah, we can.
In our own ways.
100%.
Okay, your
next
second to last
up is The Safe Keep by Yael van der Wooden. I don't know if I said that right.
Also has become a writer of our times this year.
100%. Won the Women's Prize for Fiction this year.
Yeah.
So it was actually published, I think, in May last year.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't published this year because I looked at it for my list.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And I read this at the start of the year whilst I was in Amsterdam, which was a perfect setting to read this book.
Oh, great.
So this I would describe as both a kind of political family drama, if you can mix those two things, a family drama that is political, and also a queer love story.
Yeah.
You will disagree.
Definitely a queer love story. I think it's interesting because I don't think it is a political... It's one of those books that's about how we live our lives in political times, whether we're political or not.
Okay. So you wouldn't say it's political?
I don't know, because it's not setting out... I know what you mean, though. Politics becomes a key component.
It does become a key component, but it's
a very human angle.
But this is another book, like Finding Grace, where you have to describe it carefully because you don't want to give spoilers.
Yeah.
Because it is a book that you could spoil. But it's set in the Netherlands in 1961, so post-war, and explores the life of Isabel, who is a recluse who, after her mother's death, is living in and taking care of the family home. Her brothers return to the family home. And one of her brothers brings his girlfriend, and I really loved the sort of individual dynamics with the brothers, but I really loved, in terms of this brother that brings his girlfriend home, the exploration of gender in this time, and how although she lives in this home and he does not, he still has the biggest claim to the house.
Yeah, it's in his control. He's
Yes.
the owner.
And he uses this to his advantage when he dumps his girlfriend at the house while he gallivants off elsewhere. And Isabel obviously hates this because she doesn't like people and is like, everybody leave me the fuck alone. But in this sort of effort to not make effort with this girl that is left with her, she then starts to learn so much about herself, and a really surprising relationship blossoms out of it. And I really, really loved the exploration of desire and again of yearning, and how as a recluse she has, would you say, suppressed or repressed so many parts of herself.
Yes. Yeah, she's full of fear.
And refuses to kind of entertain any of those feelings until she's kind of forced to. I don't think that gives too much away. But I found this book like really all-consuming. Like, I was like, I don't want to put it down. I want to find out what happens. I want to know what happens with this family. I want to know what happens in this dynamic between these two women that feels like it could be like a very like poisonous dynamic. You're like, oh, this is quite like, what the hell is this going to go when these two, because it's very claustrophobic, isn't it? There's like this big house, but they're both trapped inside of it. And, you know, there's sort of a refusal to like, well, I'm not going to be the one to speak to you, and I'm not going to be the one to confront you. So there's like this sort of like miniature war between the two women. And it was just so interesting watching that dynamic play out. I honestly think some of the writing in this around sex is some of the best that I've read.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I think it's also, if people love Sarah Waters, particularly the paying guests, they will love The Safekeeping.
Interesting, because I haven't read Sarah Waters, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Would you say that's had some kind of influence on this?
I don't know, because I don't know her. I see parallels in some of the setups, but like they're pretty commonly used setups. So,
Yeah.
Like, but there's in The Paying Guest, it's like a woman who lives with her mother and is alone and has to have paying guests, which is like letting out rooms in the house.
Interesting.
To a couple who come in, and there's a woman, the wife of the couple, and they begin an affair, and like it's that same kind of like change of dynamic in a domestic dwelling that's very queer and cool, and there are echoes.
And there's also, is it The Pair?
Oh,
Is it The Pair? No, it's not a book. I mean, in this book there is eating of a pear.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean,
excellent.
It's not the I mean, it's funny because I read it and I was like, I get this. I totally get this. This is like a goth queer vibey thing. But a part of me was just like, it's not a peach though. Call me by your name.
No, it was defo a nod to that.
It's not a peach.
But I just thought this book was a real surprise, and there's lots of twists and turns, and if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it.
It is masterful.
Very much so.
Okay, last one. Girl Beast.
Oh my god, I've seen so many people speaking about this.
By Cicely Lind, translated by Hazel Evans. Highly acclaimed in Denmark, Girl Beast is a fearless, unsettling, and poetic reimagining of the Lolita narrative.
Interesting.
Where power shifts unpredictably and desire and coercion become indistinguishable. It's first person, it's contemporary, it's written in tiny, short little sentences and then massive, long paragraphs.
Oh my god, you know I'd love that.
Yeah. What you wouldn't love, though, is that like there aren't chapters. It's just continuous, and then there's 3 parts. Like the first part is like 3 pages long, the last part is like 20 pages long, and then the middle part is huge. But it's all about desire,
Mm-hmm.
being desired, being objectified. It's about being objectified, I think, is the best way to describe it. And the process of being objectified as a beautiful prepubescent and girl going through puberty, and what that creates inside the potential for damage that creates inside a young girl who is aware that she is desired and is desired by the entire world, and how that changes her and transforms her. And I think that's something that a lot of people have been exploring. I understand what they're saying about how it's a retelling of the Lolita narrative. I see hints of that, but I also think that, like, it's not, in a sense. It because Lolita is very particularly about this one man and this one relationship. This, like, the girl beast in this book, Sarah, she has multiple relationships with older men, and her life is transformed and transgressed in so many different ways, but it's incredibly cool. I think, like, Lucy, my friend Lucy, endorsed it, called it a fever dream of a novel. And I think a fever dream is a good way of describing it, because it just feels like you're in her head and you're just kind of being washed over by everything that she says. But it's a lot about body and desire and eating and food, which I think you would really appreciate it.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it is like, if you're currently struggling with an eating disorder, it's not the book for you. So this is a bit that she writes about eating, and she's stopped eating, basically, and is developing anorexia, and this is a little section about that. Rosa could ask if she wanted to. Rosa's her friend. Why do you think power is shutting your mouth, ignoring yourself, hurting yourself, doing harm? What about your little heart? Does it beat on 3 peas and a carrot? Pepsi Max, does it work? Do you want to die, Sarah? Because it's easy to let go, just to let hunger slip its slow, stupid knife into your poor heart. Anyone could do that, Sarah. Put a stop to it. That's no skill. You think you're special, strong, determined. But to be honest, becoming thinner than thinnest, that's easy. That door is open to everyone. It's not hard. You just have to feel like shit and keep your mouth shut. It's no great achievement. You're convinced it is, but it's really not hard. You see me as a loser, my dear friend, but I've risen. I'm going places, forward, up. You think control is perfection, and you think perfection is anything nearly dead. A ghost-like figure, light steps in the snow. As if what it means to be a girl is to be a warm and quivering corpse. Be an image. You want to be an image. You want to be seen, appreciated, like an altar, like art, like you're better than the rest. Like it's easier to pick you up from the ground the closer you are to the stars. It's time to put down roots, Sarah. Be a tree, a rose. Just stay in the soil and drink. The rain is falling.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I really want to read that.
It's it just really taps into this idea of, like, the connection between, like, we know societally that, like, when you objectify a person's body, they are likely to be pushed towards constricting that body and controlling that body through the intake of food. Like there is a connection between them, and Girl Beast really, like, clings the connection together.
Yeah.
That she has been sexualized since she was a child.
Right.
So there is a part of her that understands her sexuality as childish, and she understands that her sexuality and her desire, that the way that men desire her is connected inherently to being childlike and to therefore being thin.
Yes.
And being young. So she's connecting innocence and thinness and being as light as a feather and being desirable and being childish all together in this horrible, like, warped thing. And the book doesn't just cover, like, one period of her life. It starts when she's, like, 13.
Right.
And it finishes when she's, like, 31.
Oh, wow.
So the real transformation, the middle of the book is, like, 13 through to, like, kind of 18.
Right.
And that transformation in those years of being, like, at her most potent in how she feels desires. But it's just such a beautiful insight into the decline that she feels inside of herself and how her body changes and how she changes and all of those things. And it's a tiny book. It is literally 155 pages long.
It is teeny tiny.
It is teeny tiny. It does so much. It is masterful. I think it's a little bit reductive to say that it's a retelling of Lolita, because I think Lolita is a very specific book, and this is more of, actually, it's just so broad. You
Yeah.
can't just put it into just like, oh, it's a retelling of Lolita.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's interesting to anyone who has ever been a young person in female flesh, basically. So yeah,
100%.
highly
I
recommend.
do need to read that.
I actually have spare copies, so I can give you one.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yes, please. My final pick is Slags by Emma Jane Unsworth.
Fun.
So this came out in May. I interviewed Emma at Waterstones on Deansgate, which was
fun.
very fun. And she was as incredible as her book is. I've now read 3 books by Emma. I've read Animals, which is a very Manchester, chaotic girls in their 20s making terrible decisions kind of book. Adults is a very like social media kind of book. And then Slags is 2 sisters go on a birthday road trip for one of their 45th birthday in a camper van across the Scottish Highlands, and they get drunk, they cause chaos, they fight, they talk about the past, they talk about, you know, when they were teenagers obsessed with a band that may or may not be Take That.
I remember this, yeah.
And we move between their lives as teenagers and what occurred when they were teenagers and when they were involved in this sort of fan culture. And, you know, we go between that period of time and this chaotic road trip that they're on. It made me really want to go on a Scottish road trip. It sounded so fun, but it's also one of my favourite books I've ever read about sisters.
Oh.
I just think it captures that experience so perfectly, and this is the book that made me laugh the most this year.
Oh, fun. Okay.
Really, really fun. It's got Emma's signature northern wit, very sweary, very daft, very like brash. Would you say brash is the right word? What does brash mean?
Yeah, brash is like jovial, in your face.
Yeah, brash.
kind of.
Yeah, it's very brash.
Yeah.
And I just love the Manchester representation, that these are women that were born and bred in Manchester, and I don't think we see that representation enough, in my opinion. The opening is excellent.
I remember this because you read it at the...
Yes.
I love it.
So the first line is, all the old party girls will fall in. And immediately you're like, okay, I'm in it. There is... Oh my God, I really want to read the ending, but I also really want to read this bit.
The beginning's really cool. Read the beginning.
The beginning is great. All the old party girls were falling. Sarah could feel it on the city streets, in the slow limp of Saturday nights where no one went out anymore to pound the pavements with their passion or fury. Sofas with the new bar stools. People didn't salute the sun from jagged rooftops, glass in hand. People jogged instead at 5 a.m. Across the land, beds were made and slept in. Geese flew overhead unheard. The clubs and pubs were dying. Younger generations preferred coffee and conversation. Everyone was thinking about their gut health or their crochet or the state of the economy. Sarah herself, once a committed party girl, was regularly flirting with sobriety. This time, she'd managed a month so far. She'd given up drinking in February, nothing so cliched as January for God's sake, because she was starting to feel unwelcome in her own life, as though her personality was a badly fitting suit she'd inherited from a dead aunt. Night after night, she had sat sober in front of a candle, forgiving herself, waiting for clarity to hit. A month in, she was ready to cave. It was just so boring. Sarah possessed grit and tenacity like any woman with red hair, but the one thing she couldn't hack was the boredom, which was why she was sneaking glances at someone else's phone, reading the texts of the woman sitting beside her. To be fair, they were excellent texts. Some of the best Sarah had read, in fact. They were a real treat. They were a sort of party. They had everything: intrigue, raunch, playfulness, and a plot twist. I keep thinking of you with Keeley. I keep thinking of you coming over after and punishing me, tasting her on me. Have you got a lot on at work? Yeah, we're moving to a bigger office on a higher floor on Monday. These all sent in succession, barely a 30-second pause between, the shift in tone leaving its recipient seemingly unaffected. Sex and mundanity all wrapped up. Sarah was reeling. And
It's great.
I love it so much. But then it's so funny and fun and silly, and then there's just so many moments in it where it will go from being that to having these really sharp observations about sisters and family and about what life is like as a woman, and how various different pressures put on women by society, and there'll be an observation that will just really get you and move you, and it's just really unexpected, and the ending is just so moving, and it's just the 2 sisters wading into water together and deciding to like duck their heads under the water.
Yeah. Cold swimming. Gotta be done.
Yeah, and I just thought it was a really beautiful book and I loved it so much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Top 5.
Top 5. Shall we race through our honourable
five.
mentions?
Yeah, I don't have many because I feel like I would just talk about everybody.
No, that's so fair.
My so I would say a book I read this year that was not published this year but I really loved was Days of Light by Megan Hunter.
Yeah.
Which she got me for my birthday, I think.
I did get you for your birthday.
Which I've talked about in the podcast before, but I loved it. Also mentioned on the podcast before, I think The Lamb by Lucy Rose.
Yes. A banger.
Which was great.
That was published last year.
No, it wasn't. It was published this year. Came out in January.
Did it?
It came out at the start. It came out in February.
Why am I so convinced that you did the event at the end of last year?
Don't know.
Okay.
Did it in February?
Imagine that.
I did it in February. So that's another one that came out this year. And then a book that came out a very, very long time ago, which I read this year, was North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which
Yes.
I really enjoyed. If for no reason than it had, honestly, one of the funniest exchanges I've ever read in my life on it. She's asked what after another woman in the village. I don't know, said the woman rather shortly. We're not friends. Why not? Asked Margaret, who had formerly been the peacemaker of the village. She stole my cat. Did she know it was yours? I don't know. I reckon not. Well, could you not get it back again when you told her it was yours? No, for she'd burnt it.
Oh my God.
Burnt it? Exclaimed both Margaret and Mr. Bell. Roasted it, explained the woman.
Did you read that after the play? No. Oh, interesting. What play?
No.
Lois the Witch.
Oh, no, I did read it in time after the play. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I got confused then.
Sorry.
I was like, I haven't seen North and South the play.
No, sorry. I meant when I was in Lois the Witch.
Oh, yeah, because that was about Gaskell.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, that was just the
Fun.
funniest exchange I've ever
I love
read.
that.
Okay, your honourable mentions.
That
That better not be a paragraph of honourable mentions. That's not allowed.
No, it's not. This is just me like trying to make sense of my brain and arguing with myself about what I wanted. So one that I was genuinely cross that could have made the top 5 is Bittersweet by Hattie Williams. It's a banger of a debut novel. One of the best affair novels, although I don't know if Hattie likes me categorising it as an affair novel because it's not just an affair novel.
No affair novel is ever just an
No,
affair
exactly.
novel.
But it's also a beautiful exploration of grief. It's a mad look at the publishing industry and its many flaws. It's an affair between a really well-known writer he's like this really prolific writer and she is this girl that is like a new very early 20s, just started out in publishing.
Yeah.
And he is an author that is published at her publisher, and how complex that dynamic becomes and how complicated it all is. But it's also a really meaningful, intimate look at friendship and how you will meet some people in your life that will go above and beyond for you, but specifically looking at mental health and how there are people in your life that will really pick you up when you are like on the floor in the trenches of bad mental health, which I just adore that book so much. I also want to give a shout out to Boudica's Daughter by L.D. Harper, which is historical fiction based on Boudica, but it's also expanding on the history of her daughters that we know kind of little to nothing about. Loved looking at mothers and daughters through that historical lens. It was great. And also exploring the complexity of war and the kind of damage it causes. It was just a really powerful book. That's another one that nearly made me cry as well. So many twists and turns in that like literally floored me. There was like one death in it that like I don't think I'll ever recover from. The Showwoman by Emma Cowing, I was really pleasantly surprised by. Don't know why I didn't think it would be my cup of tea, but I thought it was a really great book. Loved that. Also loved Since the World is Ending by Indiana Schneider, and I think about the scene all the time of this couple lay on the floor and they've broken up a while ago, but they're kind of like in this situation where they're like, should we return to it? Was it the right thing for us to do to give up this relationship? And they spend an entire evening lying on the floor listening to like a full Joni Mitchell album, and it's just a really beautiful moment. I loved that book, and it's like a love triangle of sorts. It's set in the opera world, and it sort of exposes the kind of misogyny that occurs in the opera world, and that's just a really brilliant book. Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth, great book about yearning. If I continue, I will just mention like everything.
To stop.
But there's just so many good books that I've read this year, and it's so hard to narrow it down to 5, but
But we did.
But we did. We did such a great job.
We did such a great job.
So yeah, I think it's been a very good year of reading. I do want to try and continue to find pockets of time to read other books on my TBR, but
yeah, I think next year I'm maybe going to try and pivot towards like reading certain writers and trying to like read their whole catalogue.
I love that. Have you got anybody in mind?
Penelope Lively,
Amazing.
maybe Anne Enright,
Oh, love Anne Enright.
maybe Tessa Hadley. I don't
Amazing.
know. But like, yeah, just I might pivot slightly towards people who have got a real chunk of a backlog.
Yeah.
And trying to read through them. But what about you?
I think my goal for next year, I mean, obviously I'm going to be reading more, because I will mention now that we will be starting I say we, you will be kicking off the Books to Screens mini-series with me.
So you'll be focusing on, that's the thing you'll be
So
focusing
I'll be
on.
focusing on adaptations, which I'm really excited about, because as long-term listeners of the podcast will know, I am obsessed with an adaptation.
We love an adaptation.
So Emma will be kicking off that series with me in January.
With Hamnet.
So I'm really excited about that. So I think a lot of my reading life will be focused on that next year, which I'm really excited about.
But what fun.
But then there will be like, pockets of time that like some of the literary fiction that's been sat on my shelf crying at me.
I know, but if we complete our bookshelves, then what do we have to make us feel bad about ourselves?
Exactly. So things to look forward next year, the Books to Screen series that's starting in January.
We're so excited
And also,
about that.
if you want more content, come and hear more from me and Emma over on Patreon.
Yes, do. Come check us out.
Come check us out. We've just read The Party by Tessa Hadley, and in January we are going to be talking through the 2026 releases that we're excited for.
We are.
So join us there.
So
Excited. But thank you so much for listening. Please do rate, review and subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode. Go give Emma a follow via Elf
Oh
Reads.
yeah. I'm ELPH Elf Reads READS on Instagram, and I am Elf13 ELPH13 on Tumblr and AO3, and those are the only places I live.
Exactly. But you can also find Emma's books, The Knowing, The Quick and the Dead and Witch Law. Links to those in the show notes. And you can follow me via @ApairofBookends_pod on Instagram and @ApairofBookends on Twitter and TikTok. And find us on Patreon via patreon.com/ApairofBookends. That is all we've got time for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holiday.
Happy reading also. Bye.
Bye.